In the wild and dramatic landscape of the Western Lake District lies Muncaster Castle, which has been home to the Pennington family for over 800 years. Built in the early 1300s, this impressive medieval castle has stood command at this strategic position in northern England for centuries. It's a castle of royal connections and a very special treasure.
That's Henry VI holding the Luck of Muncaster, and he gave us the drinking bowl, saying as long as there's the bowl's unriven, then there'll always be Penningtons here. And we've still got the bowl.
Iona and Peter have been joined by their eldest son, Ewan, to guide the castle into the future.
It has literally been frozen in time
Yes.
from 100 years ago. So how can we use it? How can we
Right.
celebrate that heritage, but make it accessible to future generations?
Yeah.
And during my stay, I am given a bird's eye view of a project which has spanned the generations.
You've got a Grade 1 listed building, a medieval castle, England's highest mountain beyond, in this incredible flying arena.
When I married into the British Aristocracy, it was the start of a wonderfully exciting journey. But it was also a little daunting. I became a Viscountess, and for an American girl from a small town outside Chicago, that was quite a shock. I live with my husband Luke, heir to the Earl of Sandwich, and our family at Mapperton House in Dorset. Living in a place like this is a joy, but also a challenge. And every day we're aware that we're preserving a very special part of Britain's heritage. Mapperton has opened up an extraordinary new world for me, and I can't wait to share it with you all. So if you love castles and manors and stately homes as much as I do, please join this American Viscountess as I journey into the British countryside in search of some of Britain's finest historic houses. The spectacular landscape of the Lake District shrouds Muncaster Castle in a mist of history. Its geographical position on the River Usk and near the coast has shaped the history of this area since Roman times. The castle today is under the watchful care of the Frost Pennington family.
Hello. Hello. Good, how are you?
Good.
So nice to see you.
And you.
Who's this?
That's Mashy.
Mashy. Hello. How old is Mashy?
2 and a bit.
Oh my goodness.
She's just a baby, but she's very friendly.
Yes. Anyway, thank you. Hello.
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 The whole family's here. What I love
Lovely
to
to see you again.
It's like a wonderful welcome. Hello, you.
Hello. Good to see you again.
So nice to see you. Okay, can I just admit something, everybody? I've never been to the Lake District before. I know.
That's
And
terrible.
it's beautiful.
Where have you been all your life?
And
the West
clearly
is
not
best.
here.
Very definitely.
It's an adventure to get here.
Yeah, and then once you're here, the view
Oh, it's amazing,
is
isn't it?
outstanding.
Gateway to paradise.
And it changes the whole time too.
It's incredible.
As the clouds move, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
Moves
And
around.
Here you are, this enormous castle.
And this is the medieval Great Hall,
Okay.
dates around
So
1300.
Was that kind of the main entrance that I went
Well, that's
through?
changed a little bit. It's
It
not
do-
the
it
most
does.
impressive main entrance, but it keeps the wind out.
Well, I mean, you've got an impressive castle, so it's okay about the entrance, because you're like, wow.
But it's a strange place because it's very different. It could be 2 totally different castles, couldn't it? You look at that side and it's long and thin and impressive. And you look at this side and
very
it's
Gothic.
down to a very deep ravine and sort of round the edge.
My favourite view is when you're looking up it out of the hill, because I
Right.
wouldn't want to run at it.
Dominating the
Yeah, it's
land.
dominating. It's saying, hi, I'm here. I'm going to defend everybody.
Which makes sense because if it was Roman foundations and the Roman tower, then it would look after the crossing going across the river.
Right.
It's
And look up
guarding
the valley.
yeah.
So this is medieval hall.
And it's where the community would meet and mingle and eat and drink. And
They did everything
talk.
here.
And the whole community would be here and into the tower to defend themselves against the
Right.
rampaging neighbours or the Scots or whatever.
Right.
And this is the symbol of the family, the Pennington cat,
So
the wild
wow,
cat.
The cat. I mean, I've been to a lot of historic houses and I've never really seen a symbol of a cat before. Usually it's some type of dragon or griffin or
a lion.
A lion. Yeah, but a cat.
Well, sometimes an eagle
I love
or a
it.
wild boar
Yes.
or something. And this is not the domestic cat, this is the wild cat that still exists in Scotland, used to be around here. They're brave and ferocious and defend their ground
Fearless.
and fights like Billy-O. And the symbol that you see on this portrait of Admiral Sir John Pennington, who was Admiral of the Narrow Seas for King Charles I, that's the English Channel. And the other is the 5 blue lozenges on the yellow background. So the colours of the family are the gold and the blue.
And you've got so many paintings here as well. Does one kind of stand out?
Well, this one here is
Yes.
quite interesting. That's Henry VI holding the Luck of Muncaster, which was his communion bowl.
Okay.
He was found wandering after the Battle of Hexham by Pennington shepherds and brought here to convalesce. And he gave us the drinking bowl as he left,
Right.
saying, as long as there's the bowl's unriven, then there'll always be Penningtons here. And we've still got the bowl.
And you still have that bowl.
Venetian glass, yeah.
Oh
The
my
Luck
goodness.
of Muncaster.
The Luck of Muncaster.
All the luck of the family is
So you
embodied.
took him in. The
That's
family
right,
took
yeah.
him in. And he was here.
During the Wars of the Roses.
Iona, am I right in thinking that this has kind of come through the female line recently or the past?
Well, the past 2 generations, my mother and then me.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then previously, my great-great-grandfather, it came through his mother from the Seymours.
Because you guys have been here for how long?
Well over 800 years.
800 years. So you have all these ancestors. How do you keep track of them?
Ah, well, we keep finding exciting things about some of them. But if we go through here, we can see
Great. Ooh.
a picture or two.
Okay, so this, I'm assuming, is the dining room. And what a spectacular dining room. It's enormous.
It's fabulous.
It's great, isn't it?
It's
And
enormous.
this table
Yes.
is made from one walnut tree.
I don't believe you.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
This is made from one walnut tree.
Yeah.
It expands to fill the whole room and we can seat up to 28 or even 30 people around it. It's a fabulous room for a dinner party.
It is sensational. Absolutely sensational.
And the other interesting feature of the room is the wallpaper, which isn't wallpaper at all, but leather embossed with gold leaf. And it's a hanging rather than being stuck to the walls. But,
And so when was this room created to what we see today, especially with that wall hanging, really?
About the 1880s, really.
1880s,
Yeah.
okay.
Rather than have embroideries and things, it's much cheaper to actually have this sort of wallpaper.
Really? So they were,
And very
well, in the
fashionable.
medieval age,
Yeah.
you insulated and decorated with tapestries, but that was hugely labour intensive. This was
Yeah.
the first foray into the sort of wallpaper industry, if you like.
so this is leather, and then it would keep it warm, I guess, having the leather on the walls.
Yeah.
Similar
looks
to
very rich
and
and
it looks,
beautiful.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it would look very gold in its original.
Now, Iona, you mentioned that there were paintings in here about
The Seymours. My-
so how it went through the female line.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my great-great-grandfather, John Ramsden's wife, was Gwendolyn Seymour.
Okay.
So all the Seymour things came through that way.
Okay.
And she had 2 brothers. This one was the younger one. And he was a diplomat in India. And he had a bit of a fight with the bear and lost. And there's lots of letters to his mother about how he is. And he actually got gangrene and died out there.
Okay.
And then this one's the older one. And he wasn't particularly happy. And he'd gone for a walk in the park. And he found this young girl crying. And he comforted her. She came and sat on the seat beside him. And he comforted her. And she had just been sacked, basically, by one of the houses. And so she had nowhere to go or anything. And so he actually took her in, fell in love with her. And they ran away to France.
Oh my goodness.
And he then got consumption And there's letters to his mother saying, look, oh, he had 2 children.
Right.
Look, I've got TB. And he then came home and his mother, he died, and his mother took in his girlfriend and his 2 children. And then his two children married quite well.
Right.
And his mother brought them up.
So, but then how did it go through the female line then?
So their sister, Gwendolyn,
Gotcha.
was my great-great-grandmother.
I see.
So-
Okay, so she's the one who married John.
Yeah.
Basically, a guy goes to India, he's the hero, runs into a bear, the bear wins, he passes away, oh no, sad. Then older brother, he's the heir, falls in love with a scullery maid, has a passionate affair with her, but does it out of wedlock, runs off to France, has 2 children with her.
Right.
Those children are illegitimate.
Okay.
can't
And so the
inherit.
Duke and Duchess of Somerset of the time, when unfortunately he dies young, because of illness,
Right.
they take in his children, but unfortunately because they're illegitimate, they can't inherit it.
They can't inherit.
But they're still brought up in high society. They marry incredibly well. As Mum highlighted, they become famous for a whole host of things.
Duchess
There's a
of
book on
Portland.
them.
Right.
It's amazing. And then the whole conclusion of this is the Duke and Duchess of Somerset, the daughter, is the one that is married to one of our family. As a consequence, we have lots of Somerset possessions. In fact, I believe we're more closely related to the Duke of Somerset, this Duke of Somerset, than the current Duke of Somerset is, because we're direct line.
So
It's
he was
fascinating.
meant to be the next Duke of Somerset.
Yes.
Yes.
And they had 2 illegitimate children. They couldn't take it on.
And
his
it went
sister
back up and down.
Is my
elsewhere.
his
great-grandmother.
sister's a great-grandmother.
I just think every family tree is a bit like a Sudoku puzzle, and you just need to
so good.
That's the whole point, because if he'd married, his son would have been the heir and become the Duke of
This
Somerset.
could be my favorite family conversation about ancestors ever that I've ever done. Because it is, number one, it's so
confusing.
fun, but it's so confusing, especially when there's like death of a bear, he's died of consumption, ran up a
sister gets
scullery
married
maid.
to a
You can't make it up. Can I also just point out, though, while we were having fun telling that enthralling story, the view here, you look out these windows and you actually think it's like painted landscape there. It's that picture perfect that it almost doesn't seem
It
real.
changes the whole time too. It's fantastic.
I mean, I have to say, when we walked in, it looked completely different from how it looks now.
And it's very romantic. It's the wonderful landscape and the gateway to paradise, as John Ruskin described it.
Absolutely.
You've got England's
stunning.
highest mountain, Scafell Pike, away to the left, and just the Cumbrian Fells tumbling down into the sea here at the coast at Muncaster. So this is the incredible drawing room, or technically the withdrawing room, where the ladies would withdraw after dinner
Yes.
to do ladylike pursuits.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So on the walls, I'm looking around, it looks like a lot of ancestors, is that right? And I'm presuming yours. Now, we could spend all day here going through each and every one, which I'm sure you know tons of stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. An exact date, the lot.
But maybe just point out a few that you think are important to you.
Well, this one is Lord Seymour, the Protector. He's my 13th great-grandfather,
Okay, wow.
and his sister was Jane Seymour.
There you go. That is a
The
big
favourite queen of Henry VIII.
Of Henry VIII. That's a big
That's right.
connection there. Wow. So that dates to, that's basically, we're sort of 1530s.
1530s, 1540s.
Exactly.
Quite a long time ago.
Yeah, quite a long time ago.
He was a general who won the last battle in the Anglo-Scots War, the Battle of Pinkie, the last battle in the Anglo-Scots War. So I don't like him much being Scottish, but anyway.
No. Very well. He was beheaded. Are you happy
He was
about that?
beheaded, well.
But more importantly, is the recent generations.
Yes. So this is my mother here.
Yes.
And father.
Okay, I can see the resemblance actually in both. I mean, I see you and your mother, but then when I look at your father, I'm like, oh, I can see you and your father as well.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah. What lovely
And
portraits.
then she looks very severe there. She wasn't at all.
What was her name?
Gentle.
Phillida.
Phillida.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then her mother is up above. It's
Wow.
Veronica.
What's her name?
Veronica.
Veronica. Very glamorous.
Very glamorous.
Wow.
Yeah, she liked being glamorous.
Yeah, very glamorous.
And her husband, my grandfather, Sir William, down at the bottom.
Yes.
And then his father, John Ramsden,
Okay, so that's your great
grandfather.
grandfather. I'm just trying to follow the pieces
And
here.
he's the one who inherited Muncaster in 1917.
And this is my great grandmother, Joan Ramsden.
She's very glamorous.
She is, isn't
I mean, and she's sort of center stage there. They all, thought, well, no, we're not going to compete with that, so we'll just do smaller.
I knew her actually.
And what was she like, as glamorous as she looks there?
She was very old by the time I knew her.
Right.
Well, you knew.
Great granny, yeah.
Wow.
She died in 1976.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
She was getting on a bit.
Right.
She was here a bit in the war when the Tate Gallery pictures were here because they were responsible for looking after them. And she moved around a bit, but it sounds as if she was lovely.
Let's just back up a little bit. So Second World War, the Tate put their pictures here.
The Tate, we had Van Gogh sunflowers and
It was amazing, actually.
What?
What was really interesting was somebody who was a maid here, she's died now, but she was telling us that they were told to prepare for refugees.
Okay.
And so they got everything ready for refugees, and all exciting. And the train came into Ravenglass, and the wagons went down to collect them. And then they brought these packing cases into the front hall, and they can remember looking through into the front hall through the end of the passage and seeing these and think, they're not refugees.
so we had between 600 and 800 paintings from the Tate Gallery, which was bombed and very badly damaged, and they survived the war very safely.
And the Tate Gallery is, of course, the national collection.
Of course.
All the portraits in here, I mean, they're all fascinating lives, and every single one has interesting stories to tell.
Muncaster was remodeled in the 1780s during the tenure of John Pennington, 1st Lord Muncaster. And what were once the medieval kitchens were transformed.
Yeah.
Now this
it's got a,
is a library,
it's
if
got a
I've ever
vibe.
seen one.
It's not bad, is it?
It's not bad. And then when was it converted?
Medieval times.
No, it wasn't converted. It wasn't converted from the medieval time. Okay, this is where we bring in our expert. Dad, when is it?
Well, in the 1780s, when the First Lord Muncaster inherited, it was no longer needed to be a castle to defend, and by then knowledge was power, not the number of people you had in your mini army to fight for you. So the First Lord Muncaster, Sir John, he moved the kitchen to far end of the castle, and knowledge was power, so he needed a library. And he established this amazing room, octagonal library with well over 4,000 books. And it was the internet of the 18th century.
Yeah. So now I've got another question. Do you use this room?
Yes, we do. On occasion, we use it at Christmas.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful room. And now Ewan has managed to install ground source heating. It's warmer than it was. And if we ever get time to come in here and sit in this wonderful space is amazing.
Right. It's lovely in here, and I can see it's just so well thought out. And you've placed so many family photographs, and just you've got a sort of a lovely chair collection there.
Those are apprentice pieces. So what you used to do is the apprentices used to make them, and then they used to be taken around like a catalogue.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's great, isn't it? So you
That
pick,
is-
right, I'll have one of them, or 6 of them,
And that's
or
quite right.
blah, blah.
And apprentices were not allowed to make the full-size thing because it was very costly materials if they got it wrong. So that was their final exam. But then they made great samples for the master craftsmen to be able to take round and show the
I had no
sample
idea.
of their wares.
Good, isn't it?
I had no idea. I have learned something really properly new here. That is incredible. And I've just stepped foot in here. I had no idea. That's fantastic. So do you have any of these?
No, strangely, many houses you'll go to, you'll find a model, an apprentice piece, and a set of chairs that match it. We don't have any chairs that match those apprentice pieces.
Right.
So
but you've got this
I think they were just
display.
collected by great-grandfather.
Yeah.
And then there's a wonderful another item there is what we call the alabaster lady, who I love. She used to be on a table in the middle of the Great Hall, but we had to move her in here for protection because when we did weddings and things, people would touch her and things. But Great Granny, the husband of Great Grandfather Sir John, who inherited in 1917.
The wife, you mean?
The wife,
the wife
the wife of Sir John.
Yeah, the wife, not
Yes,
the husband.
The wife, yeah. Her husband was Sir John. Anyway, they used to, when they were living here, they used to have lunch in the Great Hall, and the alabaster lady was there, but she thought it was terrible to eat lunch in front of a naked lady being born in the Victorian age, so she knitted a little pink cardigan for her and covered her up so only her head was showing. But when Great Granny died, so did the cardigan.
And who was the alabaster lady carved by? It wasn't Michelangelo. It was
Gambellina, John of Bologna.
Wow.
A famous.
So like the last of the Italian.
Yes.
But the experts all argue about experts always argue about whose things and artworks are attributed, but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, no, it is part of the fun. Now, as I look up, of course, I was looking at sort of can you get up there?
You can get on the gallery. We can't let the public up there for health and safety.
No.
But it's the question we get asked all the time. How do
Right.
you get on the gallery?
And then I'm going further up, and that ceiling.
A few years ago, we had a problem with dampness here. And this ceiling here had never sort of been painted. It was still pink plaster.
Okay.
And so we did quite a lot of work. We had a really good apprentice at the time, and we painted this blue and put the stars on. And he looked up when we got the charter, December 1208, and he put the stars where they were at that time, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, so to match the sky when the Penningtons arrived here 816 years ago.
No, when they got the charter.
That's unbelievable.
Okay.
When they got the
She's
charter,
right
when they
there.
got the charter.
Yeah, I know, but as in the first evidence, okay, let's,
That's incredible.
It's great, isn't it?
And who thought of that idea?
Iona.
Did you?
Yeah, but
That's pretty clever.
There were letters a long time ago of, I think originally it had the signs of the zodiac.
Okay.
But we weren't good enough to do that.
Right.
So we thought,
This is,
Yeah, the first Lord Muncaster's ceiling was that, and that had vanished in the Victorian renovations, and so we thought it nice to go back to a nice celestial ceiling.
that's good, isn't it?
it's very clever, and it's a talking point, and it's really, I think it's wonderful to be able to look up and think that 800 years ago, that was the sky was.
I don't really know how the sky changes over 800 years.
Well,
but
you can
that's apart
download it
from
off
that.
the internet, and it's
As in, okay, there might have been a supernova.
Nice
there might
stars,
be one or
Ian.
two star missing.
Just
but
nice stars
on
on
the
the
whole,
roof.
that's pretty much.
But
the
it is a
same.
fabulous room to come and just sit and look at the stars and think about how small we are in the cosmos. But it's a brilliant room.
Who was it? One of your father or your no, not your father, your grandfather or great grandfather? Who the reason why it's got a door up there rather than a spiral staircase through that door is because he really enjoyed sitting there watching the racing, and he got too old to be able to go to the nearest toilet, and so he had the spiral staircases removed, so there was a urinal.
That is a total load of cobblers.
Who told me that story then? If someone told me that story. Why have we got
The
the spiral
urinal was
staircase?
always in there. We're not showing that.
absolute
But when
rubbish.
Sir John inherited, they didn't want
He
chamber
used to
pots
sit
under
in
the
here
bed.
watching television and watching the racing
So
while people were
they
trooping
converted
through.
the room up there to be a bathroom, which meant the spiral staircase no
Can I
longer
just
worked.
say, I just arrived, and like how much fun it is to already be with you. So I hope
Family
it even
dynamic.
gets more
Well,
fun.
okay. Can I try a different part of the story then? So basically, you would sit there watching the racing
No, it's here.
because he was really
It's right there.
and he would sit so still watching the racing, and then something would happen in the race that he'd be like, "Yes!" And then everyone, like the general public, would just be walking around, and then
And thought he was
they
a dummy.
thought he was a mannequin, and then suddenly this thing would come alive, and he'd be like, "Yes!" And they would be terrified.
And he wasn't doing his job, which was watching the public.
Make sure they didn't.
Coming in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, listen, I'm already in love with all of you, so I can't wait for what else is going to unfold during my stay here. at
Plenty more
Muncaster
adventures to
Castle.
come.
I'm sure it'll be very eventful.
All right, so the spiral staircase. Okay.
No,
Who told me that? That's
Spiral staircase are actually downstairs.
Okay, I think
Yes, we still have the spiral.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Okay. Long.
We're never allowed to throw anything out.
I thought it was just you needed to get.
Brilliant.
I'm absolutely loving my time with Peter, Iona, and Ewan. On the upper floors of the castle, I met up with Kim Armstrong, whose passion for Muncaster, and in particular the textile collection, is inspiring.
Okay, so welcome to the tapestry room.
I love a good tapestry, or tapestries, I should say, Kim. Fantastic. Can I just, before we even go there, because I've seen them hang around, this teal color. Well, this is beautiful.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's some very strong colours in the castle. The teal is amazing, and it does pick out the colours in the beautiful tapestries as well, doesn't it?
It does. It's lovely, and I love the exposed floorboards as well. Anyway, we're here to talk about tapestries. I love textiles. Now, I can see them dotted around. Give me a little bit of history around them.
So in this room we have 3 of a collection of 9 Flemish tapestries that date from the 17th century. With all of our textile collection, the provenance is quite difficult to find because, I mean, the information might be here in the castle somewhere within our archives, but we haven't quite found it yet, the definite evidence. So we have to make assumptions and guesses based on the characteristics that we know from the family tree.
Yes.
So Iona's great grandfather, John Freshfield Ramsden, was a great lover of textiles and an avid collector. So we assume that most of the textile collection is here because of him.
Right.
So when he was away at war, his escapism was to go and find all these amazing textiles. And so we you know, that's amazing that we have such an incredible and vast collection here. I can't. It's very difficult to describe how vast the collection is. It's huge.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
The majority from him.
We think so. Yes, we think so.
What other textiles do you have? I guess
we have an
a
example
huge fan.
of pretty much everything you could possibly imagine, from lace, costume, parliamentary robes. There's silk root textiles and crewel works, rugs, shoes, hats, even underwear and swimwear. It's an incredible collection.
Okay.
The Penningtons have been here for quite a long time.
Yep.
They've never thrown anything away. It's all still here. And it's our job to, it's a delight to look after it all. It really is. And you never know what you're going to find up in the archives. We come across a box, you go, okay, I have no idea what's going to be in this. Right, okay. And then you open it up and you get that magical, I've got goosebumps now just talking about it.
Oh my gosh, I want your job.
It's incredible. It really is, yes.
Okay, I'll come back and volunteer. All right, crewel. You mentioned crewel.
Crewel.
Is there anything on crewel I could see on display?
Absolutely. There's some just across the corridor, actually, in the Queen's room.
Okay,
I'm
a big crewel fan as well.
Okay.
These are stunning, though.
They're beautiful. I know the
Absolutely.
colours and the shading in them's amazing. So there's partly wool, partly silk. So all of the lighter areas where you get the sheen, that's the silk threads, and they've used that as the highlights. And then the wool is the deeper colours to add the shadows and the shade.
Clever. And the time and the craftsmanship.
I know, another amazing thing about these is they're woven sideways.
Oh.
So your warps, the strong grains, are going across, and the weft is the colours that's woven in and out. So they're woven sideways, and then tips.
So clever. If I had more time on this earth, I'd be on a loop.
It's very therapeutic.
Let's
go and look at the crewel
Okay,
works.
great.
Okay, so this is the Queen's room.
The Queen's room.
The Queen's room. Another
Again,
lovely strong
colour.
Yes. We redecorated in here quite recently, actually, and added the really deep red.
Deep cranberry.
Yes, and one of the reasons that we chose this colour was to complement our part of our beautiful textile collection, the crewel works.
So this, wow, okay, give me a little bit of history on this.
So this piece dates from pretty much around 1700. It is crewel work, stitched in crewel wool.
Yes.
We think this piece is definitely professionally made. The wool that's been used is incredibly coarse, and to get the level of detail, and especially in the shading, in the hills here and in the leaves and the flowers, with that coarse wool is highly skilled. So we think it's a professional piece. Again, the provenance, we're not 100% certain, but it's very likely that John Freshfield Ramsden is definitely behind it.
He's behind bringing it back.
It's his taste, for sure. And it's known now as the Muncaster bed hanging.
Okay.
It's been celebrated by another Cumbrian company called the Crewel Work Company, who have recreated it as a sewing kit, which is absolutely wonderful.
Have they really? So I could go online and try to find this?
Absolutely. You can go online, buy the kit and stitch one yourself.
I did my first ever embroidery class, and we did a little bit of crewel work as well. And it's hard. It's really difficult.
It is.
I did a class. I mean, yeah.
It is like colouring in with thread, but to get that level of detail and the shading, the shading is, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
The shading is crazy, but also you have to put it up on layers.
Yes.
Layers, 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 keep layers, and
going.
then you're actually you're building up. That's now I understand it, now that I've done that little quick course, but I can see here the lift there.
Yeah.
So they would have had layers underneath.
Layers underneath.
And then lifted, and then the shading.
And blend it up, blend all of the, it's long and short stitching, so they're all blended in together.
Well, anyway, so now I'm very obviously into embroidering, but this crewel work is exceptional.
And the more you look, the more you see the animals in there. We've got parrots, we've got squirrels. And what's wonderful about crewel work, strawberries, they are strawberries. What's wonderful about the motifs in crewel work is that they're all at different scales. They're not a proportion to each other. If you look at the size of the stag compared to the size of the squirrel.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's where the person that has stitched it has got those motifs perhaps out of the pattern book, and just not cared about the scale of them and just gone for it. And it's just such an explosion of colour and skill. It's absolutely magical.
Has this had to have a lot of conservation?
It has. Before I started working here, it has been rebacked.
Right.
But more recently, and something that I've had the great pleasure of working on this piece, is being able to get it hung on the wall properly again, so it can be enjoyed by our visitors.
Yeah.
And the method for that is to actually use Velcro. It's the method, the
new
approved
method,
yes.
isn't it? Not nailing it against the wall. Which
not
is
definitely not nailing it against the wall. No. I mean, this would have originally been hung round a bed on little metal hooks.
Okay.
So those metal hooks have been removed. We've kept them as part of its provenance and history, but replaced those with a Velcro strip across the top. So you've got your Velcro strip with cotton tape stitched to either side, and then that is hand stitched with a broken zigzag stitch along the top there.
Okay.
And that stitch is a flexible stitch. So as the piece expands and contracts with different temperatures and changes in the climate of the room, it doesn't buckle.
Right.
And again, it's one of a set of 4. So we have another piece pretty much identical in size and the design, and then 2 other narrower pieces.
Really?
Similar to the tapestries, they'll be rotated
around for conservation purposes.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome to the Queen's dressing room. Another lovely colour.
Love the colour.
We were going to do this one the same colour as next door, actually, and this was the undercoat, but we quite liked it, so we left it.
I love it. It's sort of a
one of the Muncaster
rose
secrets.
colour. I mean, it's the same sort of red. You know, it's got the red.
It very much complements it.
As the Queen's room, but this is. I'm just looking around. It's just lovely.
Nice and soft.
Yeah. Good rose.
So this is one of the pieces I wanted to show you. This is from the silk route, and this is from Uzbekistan. It's Bukhara, and this is one of the pieces that I'm fascinated with at the moment. It's just come out of storage.
Okay.
For me to do a little bit more research on it. So what I found out so far is that the stitching itself is Bukhara couching. So you've got a layered thread with the couching stitches holding it down.
So remind me of the couching again. I did couching on So couching stitches, remind me, how does it work?
So you work with 2 different strands. You lay a piece on top, and then the stitching goes over the top to hold that in place. It's usually used on something more like what we've got behind us with the metal thread embroideries. So when a thread cannot physically go through the fabric, you would couch it down instead. So
That's
more decorative
exactly right.
threads.
So when I was doing my embroidering and I was using
Yeah.
gold thread, we were couching. Thank
That's
you.
exactly right. This is still couching, but it's all in silk.
Oh, wow.
So the green edging has been added on at a much later date.
Okay.
So ignore the green edging, I would say. But what's really interesting about this piece is the seam down the centre. So my theory, based on the research I've done so far, is that this is actually two ends of what was a marriage sheet.
And remind me, what is a marriage sheet?
Sure. So the traditions of countries like Uzbekistan, as soon as a young girl was born, she would begin stitching her dowry textiles. So this is a dowry textile piece. The family would have
stitched by the girl.
Stitched by the girl, stitched by their family. All of the ladies would have been constantly stitching all of the time to create their dowry textiles. A marriage sheet was very important. It would have been a plain sheet, really a linen piece with beautifully decorated borders, which is what I think these pieces are. That would have been used on the marriage night.
On the marriage night.
The plain sheet in the centre.
And then
after the marriage night would have then been taken back to the family to prove that the girl had been a virgin.
Right, right.
It's unlikely that the centres of these pieces do survive for obvious reasons.
And
however, the beautiful embroidery would have been saved. It would have been unpicked from that centrepiece and then reused. It would have been passed to the next generation, maybe saved for a future generation, or turned into something else. This, I think, is the seam down the centre is much more recent. It's someone who has found these pieces, put them back together to save them, to keep that embroidery, and keep and
then they just decided to put.
And then
some
this
type of
edging, I'm
decorative-
not quite sure what they were thinking with the edging. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest.
Maybe it was like a runner.
A runner.
Some sort.
It's quite a long piece. So yes, it's it would have perhaps gone over something or a table, but the stitching is absolutely exquisite. The tiny stitches in that beautiful silk. I mean, look at the sheen on the lighter colours as well. It's quite amazing.
How do they do all this?
And the designs for these pieces would have been designed by a lady called the Cash, which would be a lady in every town or village. They would have had their own Cash who would have designed.
Oh, so she would have
drawn it on by pencil onto the linen ground, drawn it on in pencil or whatever they had.
Right.
And
then the girl and family members would start to the
absolutely.
embroidery.
And the motifs within them would have been very specific to that region, to that area as well.
Okay. So you could do even further research and find out, if this is Uzbekistan, you could find out from the motifs here what region this actually came from.
So and again, we think this is something that John Freshfield Ramsden, Iona's great-grandfather, collected as part of his escapism during the war and sent back. And again, the colours in this are amazing, especially the reds and the pinks. Those tend to be colours that fade first. And we're very lucky at Muncaster to have so many reds and pinks surviving in the collection.
And we don't know roughly the date of this?
I'm still trying to work that out a little bit more, but 18th, 19th century.
Right. Oh, it's absolutely stunning.
A challenge in historic homes like Muncaster and Mapperton is to display the textiles so they can be enjoyed and studied, but also conserve these precious collections for the future. In the Great Hall, Kim showed me one of Muncaster's treasures.
So this is the marriage chest. It's a Swiss marriage chest.
It's beautiful.
And I've got the key in my pocket.
Oh, yes, you do.
It's quite a key.
It is. It's some really intricate marquetry here.
Yes, the more you look, the more you see in it, with all the marquetry in here with the plants, and then we've got some beasts here.
It's beautiful. Okay, so we're going to open
Should
it
we
up.
open it up?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
Perhaps not what you might expect.
Look
inside.
It says a textile report, work undertaken by you.
That's me.
Fantastic. All right, so tell me about what's in here now. Beautifully, by the way, conserved.
When we opened the chest in 2020, 2021, all the items in there were folded. There was no packaging. There was a little bit of acid-free tissue paper in there from a previous conservation effort, but everything was folded.
Yeah,
and
I can relate to that.
Folds mean creases, mean areas of weakness, which is damaging to delicate textiles, especially silk, and there was a lot of silk.
Right, so was the silk shredding at that point?
Luckily, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. We caught it. However, there were some very deep creases forming in those pieces.
Yes.
So we literally got everything out. The chest actually was in the drawing room at the time. It's since moved to this location.
I mean, you've labelled it beautifully.
Absolutely. So inside each of these tubes, they're all cardboard tubes. We had a little adventure to the carpet shop in Whitehaven, just up the road, and collected lots of their cardboard tubes.
Yeah.
However, cardboard is quite a challenging thing because it off-gasses. Over time, it gives off harmful vapours to textiles and will discolour them and deteriorate them over time. So we have to put a buffer on there. And we use kitchen tinfoil.
Really?
So we cover the this sounds crazy.
Yeah.
And we cover them in foil.
You've covered
the tube.
The tube,
the
inside and out.
Inside and out with
foil.
With foil.
Okay.
And mainly on the outside. The inside is okay.
Yeah.
But the outside, yes. Then if the textile that we're wanting to roll has a pile, has quite a deep embroidery on it, we also wrap some wadding, like quilt wadding, around the tube.
Okay.
And then we cover the whole thing with bandage, like leg bandage. And that holds all of that nicely together and leaves us with a nicely prepared tube ready to roll our textile onto.
Right.
So we roll it on with acid-free tissue paper inside all of the layers as well.
Okay.
And that helps to prevent any colour run within it.
Yeah.
And store them beautifully.
So you're taking this carpet here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is I can see it's an ottoman cut velvet and metal thread panel. So it's a panel, sorry, not a carpet, but a panel. So you've taken that, you've put acid-free paper on one side, then put it on the top, and then rolled it.
Absolutely, yes. So you lie the piece
tight, or does it matter?
Mid. You want it to be snug enough so it doesn't shift whilst it's on the tube.
Okay.
But you don't want it too tight that it distorts the fabric.
Okay.
So it's really important when we roll things that they're rolled evenly.
Right.
And that there is a layer of tissue between each layer.
Okay.
And also that they're rolled face out. I'll just pop this down a second.
Yeah, it's probably quite
so
heavy.
that they're rolled face out, and what that does, it allows the face of the embroidery to relax around the tube.
Then you're sticking it inside this cardboard tube that has tin foil.
It's going on the outside of the cardboard tube.
Oh
so
my gosh.
So it goes round the cardboard tube.
It goes around the Okay. Oh my gosh. Because when you look at that, you think that it's a big... I thought it was...
No, it's actually quite small. This piece here is only about this big.
I see. So how big is the cardboard tube?
The cardboard tube's about this.
This.
And the bandage we use is 10 centimetre bandage.
Tin foil?
Bandage. Tin foil, sometimes wadding, then bandage.
Yep.
Acid-free tissue, textile. And then the outer layer is more acid-free tissue. And then this is a material called Tyvek.
Okay.
And this is a material that moths do not like. They love what's inside, but they can't get in once we've put this on. It also allows the textile to breathe. So Tyvek is breathable one way, but not the other. It's magic material. And then we tie it with cotton tape loosely around where the textile is, but still firmly enough to hold it very tight at the ends so nothing crawls inside. And in this chest here, this is only really phase one. We need a bigger castle. I know that sounds crazy as well.
I hear you on that one.
To progress to the next level of care for these items, they would be suspended on racks instead of all being on top of each other. They would be
racks, but
so
in acid-free paper.
The bottom, the ones on the bottom are not getting crushed.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. How many do you have in here?
There were over 100 items in this chest. There were.
What?
Some of the items that were folded, that were considerably larger, are now stored elsewhere.
Right, in another chest.
Where the tubes could be long enough for them.
There were 100
there were
items
100
folded
items
in here.
in this chest.
And you've done such an amazing curator report. So if somebody comes here like me, I can basically read exactly
what happened.
And in 100 years, they'll be able to read it to you.
Exactly, yes.
Exactly what happened.
We're very aware of continuing to add to the archive of Muncaster. Also from a conservation point of view, this is an important thing. So
amazing.
A future conservator or future curator knows what has already been done to these items. we leave time capsules all over the place as well. So when the lady that does our upholstery comes, she leaves newspaper cuttings and things inside chairs that she's upholstered. So the next person to upholster it can find them. If any walls are replastered, we put things in what's happening at the time as a momentum of the time that those renovations, repairs, conservation work took place.
This is amazing. So how long did it take you? That's my last question. I could be here all day, but how long did it take you?
We were working on it pretty much every single day, myself, and we formed a little textile bubble during lockdown, and it was 3 or 4 months. Wow. And this is just one chest.
Well, if you need,
this is just one chest.
If you need any help, and if I have any time, I would like to sign up for that volunteering project.
You'd be very, very welcome.
Okay, great. That's a deal. Kim, this is outstanding. This is like the cherry on the top of our tour that we've just done on textiles. Honestly, just to see this and to see how well it's been conserved for future generations and the effort that went into this is incredible. So well done to you and the team that's done this.
Very exciting.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kim. What a treat.
At Muncaster, you literally can sense history all around. From its remote location to its impressive interiors, you can imagine those who have gone before walking these rooms.
Well, in you come, Julie. This is what we call the King's Room. So it's a very important room to the family because it's reputedly where at least 2 kings have stayed. The first king is Edward VIII.
Oh, wait, okay, really? Edward VIII, who was Edward VIII for a nanosecond, and he abdicated Wallace Simpson.
Because of Wallace Simpson.
He stayed here.
He came in, he technically wasn't the king, he was Prince of Wales. He was on a tour around the Cumbrian mines, and he stayed at Muncaster Castle. And we know that because his bodyguard came quite a few years ago and said he spent the most uncomfortable night of his life here because he had to patrol up and down the corridor protecting the king, and he was terrified of the ghosts. And the bodyguard, not the king, and the king slept soundly in this bed. And so we know Edward VIII has slept here.
Wow.
But the far more important king to us
is
Henry VI. Because as we mentioned briefly downstairs, the only reason we think the family's still here is because of Henry VI and the Luck of Muncaster.
Okay.
He was the son of Henry V, the famous king who won the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, hurrah.
Yes.
And in fact, Henry VI was the only man in history to be crowned King of England and King of France because of his father's conquests.
Right, that's right. It's ringing a bell. It's ringing a bell.
But compared to his father, he's a bit of a disappointment because he was not nearly as good a general as his father and kept losing battles.
Okay.
And the French started taking their country back.
Oh.
And he was sort of the central character in what's now called the Wars of the Roses.
Yes, yes,
and he was thrown off the throne by Edward of York, boo hiss, the West staunch Lancastrians here, and those Yorkist upstarts. And Henry escaped into Scotland, raised another army, came back, and in 1464 was defeated again at the Battle of Hexham.
Oh. Kind of feel sorry for him.
Yeah, you do feel sorry. He's just useless fighting. You know, his wife Margaret of Anjou, she was quite formidable. Anyway, Margaret, his queen, and the Prince of Wales fled another way, and Henry fled into West Cumberland with a single servant, hoping some of them would survive, escape from the Yorkists. So the story goes, he turned up at the next stately home down the road asking shelter, and they quite sensibly said, no, you're not king anymore. If we take you in, we'll be in trouble.
Really?
So they threw him out, and he left he hid in the woods and put a curse on the place. But after that, he came wandering over this way. He was found on the hillside.
Him and just one
servant,
just
a
one
chap
servant,
called Sir Richard Tunstall, we believe.
Okay.
And he was found by Pennington shepherds wandering on the hillside. And there's now a monument there to Henry. And we don't know whether the monument is, and it's called Chapels because Holy King Henry, even though he was useless general, he was known as Holy King Harry because he almost got canonized as a saint after his death.
Wow.
And the shepherds brought him into the castle, and Sir John Pennington was living here. He was a very old man, but he'd fought with his father at the Battle of Agincourt, so he was a staunch Lancastrian. He took the king in, gave him breakfast. He disappears from the records for some time, and we think he stayed here for 2 or 3 weeks and given shelter by the family. Now, when he left, he was so pleased with his reception that he left his little enamel drinking bowl, so the legend goes, saying, as long as this bowl remains unriven, Penningtons from Muncaster never shall be driven. In other words, as long as you don't break this bowl, you keep the castle.
Yes.
And weirdly, again, the hairs are standing up
Yeah.
at the back of my neck, and they often do when I tell that story. So the bowl is now known as the Luck of Muncaster.
Ooh, that's so exciting. And you're still here.
We're still here. It's the only the family know where it's hidden. So if I tell you where it is, you'll have to make your escape, because I'll have to kill you.
Okay, okay, fine.
But it is in the
get it.
castle.
Okay.
Iona doesn't dare bring it out and put it on public display.
No, because
It's our most prized possession.
that's right.
And it's beautiful Murano Venetian glass.
Is it?
It's very delicate. It's very dirty because we don't dare wash it or clean it.
Okay, because
But it's still intact. It's still here, and we still have the castle.
It's amazing. That could be, I have to say, Peter, and I'm not just pulling your leg here, that could be one of my favorite historic house stories I've actually ever heard. That's good.
It's lovely. It's very important
lovely.
to us.
Yeah.
And it's weird when we do occasionally bring it out to check it. We normally check about once a quarter. Get it back in its box and hidden in its secret place. And there's lots of other stories with it. There's a story that somebody was trying to get rid of. They didn't like the Penningtons, and they supposedly got the bowl and threw it away and tried to smash it on the shore, and it landed on sand and
So it didn't break.
The story is when the Scots were attacking at one point, they took the most prized possession, took it down the cannon bank, the bank just below the castle, to the river, and they were going to hide it, dig a ditch in the river at low tide, and so cover it with sand, then it'd be covered by sand and water, and no one would find it. And on the way down, carrying it out the castle, they dropped the box, and they went, and they hid it, and then the Scots raiders passed, and they dug it up after, and this is the story I didn't really believe. And they dug it up afterwards, but they didn't dare open the box because they thought they'd broken it.
I see.
And so the story goes, they waited something like 30 years or 3 generations, and then they dared to think, we're still here. They opened the box and found they'd used enough straw, whatever, to pack it, and it was still intact.
And it was still intact.
Now, I heard that story, I thought, that's a load of cobblers. And we had a glass expert here looking at it one year from Sotheby's, and he said, it's strange. I don't understand why the glass is in quite good condition, but the enamel is all faded. And I said, well, I don't know if it helps. But he told them that story. He said, that would fit perfectly because it was hidden in the river. It would get contaminated with river mud, and the mud and the effect of the earth would decay the enamel, but not the glass. So he said, that actually fits. And I'm going, so another example, one of these legends handed down through the centuries maybe does have a modicum of truth.
Exactly.
The history and stories held at Muncaster are fascinating, and there are many more to uncover.
Well, this is a delightful room because there's lots of secrets hidden in this room.
I can already tell you, Peter, that this is going to be my favorite room in the house because I'm a novice archivist, and I love anything that basically dates back to hundreds of years and even 1,000 years. And I know you're bordering on that. 1,000 years. You're bordering, aren't you?
Almost, yeah. Well, we have a Roman slab that's 1,800 years or whatever. But,
there you go, exactly. Now, I can hear, where are we in the castle?
Oh, we're the top of the tower now. So it gets a bit windswept up here. So, and you're in Wild West Cumberland now.
Yes.
So
the weather is making sure that we hear it, and it's making an appearance.
I hope we don't start rocking. But we shouldn't, because it was built to keep the Scots out. So
that's exactly right.
Secure. So don't worry, we should be safe. But I'm also an amateur archivist, I'm afraid. I mean, just an enthusiast.
Yep.
And Kim and our other team of curators normally tell me off for doing things. So I'll try and do this properly.
Great. Well, we're in it together then.
So we've various things, starting from relatively modern. We've got a lovely little letter here, which when I read it, and it's basically, Dear Sir John Ramsden, who is Ewan's great-great-grandfather, Iona's great-grandfather. Dear Sir John Ramsden, thank you for your letter, which I have not answered yet. It appears that Beaufale is safe in your hands, as it would be in the hands of the National Trust. I remain yours sincerely, Beatrix Heiress. Now, I'm sure you know who Beatrix Heiress really is.
Beatrix Potter.
That's Beatrix Potter, and this is from 1926, obviously just around the time the National Trust was being set up, and Beatrix Potter was donating many of her farms, which she'd bought with her proceeds from Peter Rabbit and books like that.
Yes.
And she was instrumental in protecting the environment and looking after things and just exactly what we're trying to do, keep things for the future, for generations. And there's a long list of correspondence where she's writing to Sir John about how the land has been dealt with. And we don't have the intervening letter, because obviously that must be in the Beatrix Potter collection somewhere,
of course.
where he's explained to her how they're looking after and taking care of the land. And so this letter is going sort of correspondence closed. No, we don't need to take this land into that of the National Trust.
Or in the National
and you're doing
Trust,
a very good
and
job,
you're doing a very...
Sir John.
How
So that's
fascinating.
lovely. That's sort of 1926.
Wonderful.
This is
so I get this
great-grandfather.
to great-grandfather.
I'll talk to him as my great-grandfather, but the fact that Sir John,
Exactly.
who inherited Muncaster in 1917, so is responsible for the whole Muncaster estate.
Okay.
Now, this is a beautiful little thing. I mean, now we take it for granted. Ewan says, oh, Dad, things are different now. He'll pop on a plane to Barcelona for the weekend with his kids, whereas when I was growing up, a day trip to Boulogne in France was incredible. It was going to the edge of the known world. And this is Lord Muncaster's passport. And this dates from the 1870s. And there's all sorts of adverts in here, as you probably, maybe don't get. But it opens out, and it's almost a personal document from...
Yes, look, this is fascinating.
And
this is what passports looked like.
This is what passports look like. And there it is.
You've got to be kidding me. So there's no photo?
Well, obviously, there were photos around then, but no photos.
No, but no photos for the passport.
But it's just the Royal Crest and Mr. George William Frederick, Earl of Clarendon, who I think was the Foreign Secretary.
Who said that this is his passport,
and he
Lord Muncaster's passport.
Requests and requires a name for Majesty, obviously Queen Victoria, all those to whom it may concern, to allow, and that's the pre-printed bit, so this is the bit you fill in. You can see, so Lord Muncaster, a Member of Parliament, who's an MP, accompanied by Lady Muncaster, travelling on the continent.
Wow.
With two
maid servants
who aren't named.
Right.
In other words, this bit of paper allows his lordship to turn up with his wife and 2 or 3 servants and be allowed to pass freely without let or hindrance, and to afford him every assistance and protection of which he may stand in need. Given at the Foreign Office, London, the 5th day of February, 1870.
Wonderful.
Signature of the bearer. Lord Muncaster's had to sign it, and he's just signed it. Muncaster.
And did they do any stamps? So when he was visiting, can we see?
Yes, I think there's a stamp there, and
I see.
There was another stamp. There's a stamp here. London, the 7th of February, 1870.
Yes.
My French isn't very good, but...
no, but it looks like, there we go.
So presumably they passed over into France. Then
they
were just allowed to go wherever they wanted to on the continent.
How wonderful.
Then something slightly more visual. This is a beautiful book, which we normally actually keep in the library, and it's getting quite old. But this is Views of Muncaster in 1810. So this is by a friend of Lady Muncaster who came. So this is a previous Lord Muncaster, because of course they're all called the same. And sometimes it's hard working out who's who. Just beautiful early paintings of the castle, and you still have, and I'd love almost to recreate this sketching, because we still have gardeners with rakes and wheelbarrows, although sometimes they have modern vehicles like all-terrain vehicles and strimmers. And I think back here,
that was lovely.
There are some lovely sort of etchings.
So was this just given as a gift?
I think this lady came to stay, and a good friend of Lady Muncaster. And of course, what did young ladies do? They had plenty of time on their hands. You'd have to do ladylike pursuits
painting,
and go out and painting,
embroidering,
exactly.
I see, and she's went around the estate.
And we know this is 1810. Oh, of course I can't.
Went around the estate, and that's lovely.
But there's some lovely, what's important to us is some lovely early pictures of the castle. So, for example, here you have the castle and the stable yards where you were having the church is here. And obviously, this is before the restoration works.
But you can see all the trees that are still here.
Yes, some of the trees.
Wonderful.
Although there are other pictures. Yes, for example, there's the front door of the castle, and the steps used to come straight out. And the wind that you hear howling, obviously whistled right through the castle. So in the 1860s, they tried to redesign it. So we got a slightly strange front door. It's sort of tucked round the side. We have to have a big sign saying castle entrance here.
Yes.
And there's the tower without the beautiful oriel windows that you'd sit and look at the view. and that wonderful picture of the castle. Before,
Yes.
the tower on the far side has been built.
When was that built then?
Well, we think about the 1830s,
Okay.
although there's a big reworking of the castle, as often happened in the Victorian age in the 1860s by Anthony Salvin, a very famous
Yes.
Victorian architect who turns up everywhere.
Yes,
but
he does.
this to me is just a
It's lovely and it's a
cornucopia
fantastic record.
of delights. And there's some lovely, there's almost the workers lying around there and leaning on their hoes
Yeah.
and looking at and this is, after Wordsworth, and that people have started to appreciate landscape.
Yeah, lovely. What a fantastic record. It was a gift.
Yes, I think I don't
presumably.
know how long she stayed here. We maybe need to look through
Yeah.
the diaries and things we'll find
Exactly.
fine. There's some debate, but I think she was called Thornton and a friend of Lady Muncaster's. So beautiful. And it gives us so much, because you see things like a summer house. That summer has been there since at least 1810.
Yes, exactly. That is wonderful.
And then, well, as you can see, we're surrounded by boxes, but probably
Yes,
one of
you
our most
are.
exciting books.
Loving
And this is,
all of your kit.
I think, the oldest book in the house. And it shows you how precious things were, because this book has been written on, rewritten on, turned around, written on again, as paper is obviously very expensive. And this,
Yes.
we actually call it the Book of Spells, because when Iona was a child living here, her and her cousins were scared of this book because they knew a wise woman had written recipes, as they're called, in the margins of the pages. And they were scared of this book because there were recipes, for example, for learning secrets, which we'll maybe see in a minute.
okay.
But it's
Oh my
basically
gosh.
an account book. And
Okay.
there's all sorts of information, which is fascinating, giving the value of things and what people are being paid. And it's about 100 years this book covers.
And what does this date back to?
I think the early 1600s,
Okay.
up to the early 18th century or the early 1700s.
Oh my goodness.
And obviously it's fascinating to us because the names of people who worked here. There's also a lot about the breeding of horses and farm animals and the names. There's a horse called Bounteous Lips and things like that. And
How funny.
And very strange names. But it's really beautiful, and the different handwriting, and bought of Mr. Jackson, bought of John Troughton. It goes into
Beautiful.
the 1700s.
So now we're in the 1700s, I see.
And quite
Yeah,
late into the 1700s.
look at the writing, but it's also legible. That's what's wonderful.
Some of it's legible, and we're trying to transcribe this. We hope we'll eventually make it available on the internet and
Yes.
things. Because people from all over the world are interested in it.
Of course.
And
Oh, what fun.
but then you turn it over,
It's a different color.
and it's a leather bound rather
Yeah.
than cloth bound.
Yep.
And there's details about mining and how to make paint and stuff.
Really?
And you see here's one of the spells. So there's a gap there where they haven't filled in. It's a totally different writing.
And it says a receipt to make
A recipe.
one discover secrets.
Take a dram of the seeds of an apple called thorn apple, love apple, or rage apple. Beat it to powder and give it to the party to drink in any liquor. And then they'll blab and tell you all the
You're
secrets.
right.
Sounds a bit... and actually, I think the seeds of these apples are actually full of arsenic and not to be recommended. There's probably a bit of
But look at this
poison.
one. This one, I'm sure it says to make something vomit. Do you see that?
To make a dog vomit.
To make a
probably,
dog,
things
yeah.
like that. I
What?
think so yes, it's all sort of faith cures and things. And just look at the writing. It's
Look at
really
this.
beautiful, and there are deeds and things.
Yeah, I can see this is a little bit tricky to read compared to what we were reading prior to this, but it's interesting. You can basically pull out words here and there, and then once you do that, then it's going to be
Once
easier
you're doing
to
it,
transcribe.
you get
And you get an eye for
the
it.
eye for it, and you realise that you pick up a bit of the person. And writing's such an incredible thing. You can write something down on a bit of paper, and they can be reading it centuries afterwards,
Yeah.
and knowing your thoughts and exactly how you felt.
Yep.
So diaries and things like this are so important. You're transported
So
back
important.
to this time.
Well, thank you, Peter. This has been, this is just my heaven right here.
I know we could spend.
I know, all day,
We could-
which I would actually love to do. I would like to, I can't even go there. What I would like to I could spend all day.
And there are beautiful
trolling
things
through.
in this place, but this is the thoughts of people, and
Yeah, that's what's so special.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and the beautiful writing and the care and time and the considered way that they all just wrote
And letters
things
are very
down.
important. Write to your parents, kids.
I know. And it's the one thing we have been telling our kids to do, and they still do it, is every time we go on holiday, they have to write a postcard to their grandparents.
Well, and when my mother passed away some time ago, and when we went into her attic, we found all the letters I'd written to her as a student once a week. And actually, you read the letter, you realise what you were officially telling your mother.
Yes, yes.
And you remember, is that what I told her?
Yeah, I told her so she wouldn't worry, or I told her so she wouldn't find out.
And stuff. So.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Peter. What a treat just to be able to come up here. Where am I again? Which tower?
Well, we're in the Peel Tower, just
Peel
we're
Tower.
sort of directly above the front door here.
Okay, in the Peel Tower,
And,
with the wind bustling.
Wind howling round
and below.
with my windows that don't quite fit properly, but and we're trying to keep these things. And this is what's important about these places, because we've collected everything over the generations, and they're not dispersed. We're maybe not the best looking after them, and we need help. We work very closely with the local records offices, and they have many of the Muncaster archives properly stored, but we're still finding loads and loads of boxes.
Of course you are. Yeah.
And we're trying to do our best to maintain them in proper conditions and make sure
that
they don't decay. But
exactly.
they're relevant because it's living, because we know who these people, well, sometimes we know who the people are.
Right.
They're often our descendants, and of where they're descendants.
Yeah.
And the knowledge of the ancestors is fabulous.
It's fabulous. And the knowledge of the Book of Spells is pretty extraordinary.
But don't grind up apple pips and feed them to people you want to learn secrets
No,
from it.
definitely not going to do that.
Beatrix Potter loved and helped preserve the landscape and farming traditions of the Lake District.
I realized I probably didn't really dress the part for this. I'm a bit colorful.
Peter and I set out to meet Dennis Purdom, who farms this land and kindly agreed to show me the amazing skill of sheepdog training and gathering in the sheep.
Hello.
Hello there.
Good afternoon, Dennis.
Good afternoon.
It's nice to
A lovely
see
day.
you again.
Yes.
I'd like you to introduce you to Julie.
Julie.
Hello.
Dennis.
So nice to
Yes.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's
Dennis
nice-
is one of the great local farming families and an expert sheepdog trialist and trainer. So
Well,
Try my best.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
Nervous, but
Yeah.
and I'm worried I'm too bright for the sheep.
No, that'll be fine.
I'll leave you in Dennis'
Right.
Okay.
capable
Okay,
hands. and
great.
Good luck.
Okay, so Dennis, explain to me the role of the sheepdog first and foremost.
Tag. Come on, boy. Well, the rule is to train them to understand all the commands
Okay,
put into them. Your
Right.
away, your come bys, and your stops,
okay.
and then on voice, and then you go into the whistle.
And you use a whistle.
Yes.
And the point of the sheepdog is to
To fetch the sheep.
fetch the sheep, herd
the
'em in.
sheep. Yes, that's
okay
it.
when you need to. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
okay. And you have to.
In a
how long-
controlled manner, that's, yeah.
So you have been doing this for how long, as far as training sheepdogs?
Well, I used to always have a sheepdog on the dairy farm,
Right.
but 15 years I've been really
Wow.
doing it.
So how many sheepdogs have you trained?
Well, I wouldn't like
Give me
to
a
say.
rough
Sort of half a dozen a year, each year, yeah.
And you
yeah.
love it.
Yes. I get them from little puppies
Oh,
and then train them
Then-
through,
and then train
And
them.
some I sell, and some I keep.
Right, right.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Look at that. He's ready for those
yes,
sheep.
yeah, he is.
Oh my.
Tag, that'll do. Come on, tag. Come on, boy, come on.
Okay, so
Stay there,
I
stay
know
there
he's
now.
desperate. Like it's
Stay
a
there,
stand up. So
yes.
can you just the tradition of sort of sheepdogs and herding and again in this landscape where we are in Cumbria, just a little bit about that. I mean, there's farming everywhere.
Yeah,
yes?
there is, and they need good dogs up on the fells.
Right.
But that is kind of a different type of dog, There's a breed of dogs that's really good for the fell, and
Right.
they're more opener than these dogs. They get
Okay.
up the rough stone and that
Right.
sort of stuff,
Okay.
These are more for inland and trial, and they will do both, but
Right.
there is a type that like the fell better, the hills. And,
Yes.
Yes.
Can you just tell me what type of dog this is, though?
Well,
These
he's
are-
it's just the border collie,
It's a border collie.
yeah, and the bred. These are bred for more on the in-by land, smaller areas and
Yes.
more commands. I think the hill dog thinks
Right.
for himself more, You know, he gets to know
And
the
what
area.
breed? What breed is the hill dog?
Well, just the border collie,
Oh, it
but
is
a
still border
different type.
collie?
Yes, yeah, but a different type. You know.
Okay. And the sheep's relationship with the sheepdog, with Tag, do they like the dog or no?
Well, they do, and the more you work a dog on the sheep, and the quieter the sheep get.
Yeah, there
you
we
know,
go.
there
Okay,
it
now what's
goes.
happening? So now we've got to get the sheep in the pen. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah.
So it looks like he's just doing it without you even commanding.
Yeah.
So they're going to just
He
come
knows.
into the pen.
He knows. A lot of them will go out on the outrun
Look at
and
this.
fetch the sheep back to me without me speaking.
No, he's just done that.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
And that's natural ability balance. That's balancing the sheep
Look at.
back to me. Oh yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah,
do any
no,
whistles or any
no,
aways or any come-bys?
No.
What? Wait, how did that just happen? All right,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try.
Yes.
Okay. Oh dear. So what do I need to know?
Well, I'll just sort it.
I'm just going to follow exactly
Yeah,
what you do.
yeah. The way's right.
Okay.
When
Oh,
we
what-
set the dog off, you'll say away.
Okay.
And if we go left, it's
Okay.
come by.
Left is come by.
Yeah.
Way,
yeah.
right,
Come by. And,
left
and if
come
they,
by.
to slow them down, just stand.
Stand.
Just like, stand.
Okay.
Just there.
Okay. This is
So
exciting.
I'll push the sheep. I'll take the sheep down. And
Okay, here we go. I'm going to pay attention.
Way. Stand. Tag! That'll do! Tag! Right, Julie.
Okay.
We'll go to the front.
And how loud should I project?
Well, just
Just to,
stand there, Tag. Stand there.
okay.
Stand there.
Okay. Come by.
And then you come out, stand.
Stand. More stand.
Again.
Stand. That's good. It's looking good. More. Stand.
Yeah.
Stand.
Come by.
Come by.
Stand.
Stand.
Stand again.
Stand.
Steady.
Steady.
Walk. Steady.
Steady.
Way. Stand.
Stand.
Put your stick out now, Jill.
Okay.
Steady.
Steady.
Come away. Up.
Steady.
Come.
Come by. Now what?
Yeah. Come by, lad.
Come by.
Come by. Just walk round towards him, Julie.
Towards
Walk to
Tag?
the dog.
towards Tag.
Yeah, go around that shape. Keep stepping round. Wait, stand.
Stand.
Go round to the dog again, Julie. Go round. Keep stand.
Stand.
Get up. Go forward, Julie. Stand.
Stand.
Go on, Julie, walk forward.
Stand.
Walk forward. Keep walking forward. Stand.
Stand.
Stand there.
Stand.
Tag. Stand there.
Stand.
That's good, Julie.
Did I technically do it?
That's it. You've got it.
I've got it.
Tag. Come on. Tag. That'll do.
Look at him.
Give him a pat now. Tag. Come on. You've got them, Julie.
I've got him now.
Yeah.
I've done it. I got a clap over there from Peter.
Oh, that should be good. The dog's standing.
Look at that. Oh my.
He worked great for you, Julie.
That's amazing.
Because he backed the sheep in, and that is good.
Right. Okay.
Come on, Tag. That'll do. Come on, boy. It isn't every dog that'll face up to the sheep, you know,
Right.
like
Tag's
that.
good. Thanks, Dennis. That's just brilliant.
The Frost Pennington family have been wedded to this beautiful Cumbrian landscape for generations. Back at the castle, in the library, I sat down with Iona, Peter, and Ewan to hear more about the origins of Muncaster, its more recent history, and plans for the future.
First of all, let me start off by saying thank you for welcoming me into this magnificent castle. And remind me, how old is the castle?
Lots of debate.
Well, the family have been here for at least 800 years, and pretty sure there's a fortification around that time. In fact, we think the castle's built on a Roman foundation. So there's been something here for a very long time, but certainly it was built probably around 1300, the early 1300s.
1300.
But then it's been built onto and built onto.
Yeah, I know.
And they forgot to stop.
Yeah, that's okay. They always are adapting and adapting.
Well, every generation wants to do their own conservatory.
That's exactly
or
right. I know, and I can't wait
But
to talk
the bit
about
you were staying in is the oldest bit. The date's from around
13th century. Fantastic.
And you can tell because the walls are just so thick, even though it's the 4th floor. You're staying on the top, Ron. You guys have gone for the proper Rapunzel room.
Right. We wouldn't expect anything less. We wanted that too.
Yeah,
but
the
I don't
walls
have
even
long
on
hair.
the 4th floor are 8 foot thick, just to keep the Scots out.
Wow. So that's really why it was built, really, to keep.
Yeah, you're in the Badlands now. This is the borderlands between where two kingdoms meet, England and Scotland.
Yes.
The debatable lands. It's where blackmail and terms like that come from. As there was all sorts of shenanigans going on. Perhaps there still are.
Right. I suspect there are. And of course, this was a perfect spot to defend. I mean, and you're close to the sea. It's so quiet. You can't hear a car. You can't hear a plane. You can't hear a train. It's remote and a great spot to defend. So, they were... Your ancestors were clever.
Yeah, it's the one place where the mountains tumble into the sea, so it's a very strategic point.
Yeah.
But also rich in minerals, and even though it's quiet now, it used to effectively be the highway for the West Coast just here, and the river below the castle was the main crossing point, or the main pinch point, which was a hard place to cross because it's a big river, and the castle watched over the ford, the tidal estuary. So if you had this power, then you had power over the local area.
Right.
I don't know if it's true, but Ravenglass is reputed to be the second port to Chester on this coast. Whether that was actually true or
In
not.
Roman times.
In the Roman times.
Yeah.
Okay. And I
Not lately.
No, and I need to get to
think not.
Ravenglass. I've heard it's
village of
beautiful.
300 people.
Right.
think not
and
for
it's
18.
perched
We
on
learned,
the sea. Is
we
that
learned, I learned this week that it had well over 2,000 Romans living there in Ravenglass, and it had loads of works. There was, as Dad highlights, a cavalryman from Syria who settled in this area and married a local. But there was, a battalion, a big Roman fort just a mile away from here.
Okay.
So it was very cosmopolitan in Roman times. It's gone to be a bit of a sleepy backwater since then.
Well, I think but let's talk about that.
Let's make it a centre.
Yeah,
It's now the
exactly.
centre.
Well, it's
You're
the centre
sort
of our universe.
This is Dad's...
Exactly. You're rejuvenating this area with what the three of you have done over the past how many years? So I'm going to start, Iona and Peter, with you. Tell me a little bit about when you arrived here, when you took over, how that all happened, what it was like. And you raised your family here as well, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's a lot of questions I just asked you. So I'm sorry.
I was brought up on a farm in Dumfriesshire, so just across, and we used to spend all our summer holidays down with our grandparents here, and there used to be 10 cousins, so it used to be fairly mad.
Right, and fun.
Oh, absolutely. But I think everybody working here used to dread the summer holidays.
Iona was the naughtiest.
Not necessarily. And we always used to go to the beach just about every day.
Right, amazing.
And so we had a brilliant time running around all over the place, and probably being a pain in the neck, actually.
Yeah. So you've just got really fun memories of in your childhood coming here.
Yeah.
And then when did you take the reins?
So then my parents took over from my grandparents in 1980.
Okay.
And I went off to Australia for 2 years, and then came back and started taking over in sort of 1982.
Okay.
And
so quite
then,
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my father was in Scotland a lot, and so I gradually took over.
Right.
And
you knew you would be the one taking over. Did you kind of know that growing up or later on in life?
I was the one who didn't step back quick enough.
Right.
I'm number 3.
Oh, right. Okay.
I've got 3 sisters.
Right.
And I'm the 3rd one.
And you're the 3rd one.
And so I just didn't step back quick enough.
Right, right. And so it landed on your lap and that was it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I've never gone away again.
Right.
So,
And in 82, when you started to sort of look at this place and think, okay, this has landed on my lap, I'm now the one who needs to make a success of this. What was the castle at that time? Was it open to the public? Because of course we have, homes started to open up to the public, we know, in the 50s in order to help, feed that cost of repairing the roof or the stonework or the lead windows, what it might be.
I think it was really in the 60s they started opening in a very small way. But what my grandmother did was she had a sort of mini zoo, which at that time was a lot of historic houses had. And what happened was sounds a bit strange now, but Harrods used to have a pet shop. And she walked into Harrods and she saw this little bear in a tiny little cage, and it had rubbed its shoulder, and she felt sorry for it, so she bought it. Right. And she felt sorry for it again, bought it a mate. It was called Winnie, and she bought Rupert. And then they did breed quite a lot, and then somebody gave us some more bears.
So bears?
Bears, yeah.
Bears?
Yeah, proper bears.
Himalayan moon bears.
You have proper bears here? Mm-hmm. And was that an attraction for people to come in? Was that the point?
Yes, it was. It was. They had a whole lot of a bird garden, so they had flamingos.
Okay.
And, various
Cirrus cranes
things, and
storks.
And deer and all sorts of things.
Wallabies.
Right. So the public started to come.
Yeah, the public came in at that stage.
Right.
And it was, a lot of historic houses did do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We didn't have any lands or anything a bit like that.
No, but you had some sort of zoo, if you like.
Yes.
So so you're married, you've taken over Muncaster as far as managing it.
And Peter's continuing to be a vet.
Okay.
Yep. And then I had Ewan. We got married in 1988.
Okay.
And then I had Ewan in 1990. And then Fraser in 1991. And that was getting a bit too much to run the place on my own.
Right.
With 2 babies.
Yes. Well,
and then we had Isla.
And then you had Isla. So you've had 3. And you all grew up here? Yeah?
Yeah, well...
Childhood?
The best time was when we didn't live in the castle. And so to the age of 7, we lived in a house down the road.
Okay.
And that was awesome because there was a bit more work-life separation.
Yes.
The castle was falling to bits.
The castle just wasn't child-friendly because there were, over 100 buckets collecting water everywhere. And yeah, it didn't look like this. So we were brought up in a nearby house and we had complete freedom then. And then we were brought to the castle, the spooky castle. At the age of 7, our parents ran off to work every second.
Do you remember literally when there were leaks, putting buckets?
Well, we were particularly small, so we could get to places where Mum and Dad couldn't. So I remember crawling into places to be like,
it's like cleaning the chimneys,
Can you put a bucket in there? Is there any drips in there? So I do remember us crawling around as kids up in the attics.
I found a leak. Give me a bucket.
You don't know the life of living in a castle.
Very glamorous.
And cold. Was it cold? Did you remember?
Really cold and really scary. So for us, even though I was 7 when I moved here, there was no way that I was going to have my own bedroom. I 100% wanted to be in the same bedroom as my brother and sister.
Yeah.
And we were all on the same page about that. My brother was 6
until about
and my
18.
sister was 5. More like 19. And so we were all terrified because we would come here because our grandparents lived here when we were little. So I do remember occasionally being left, but we would be, in a different room. Whereas coming here for the first time.
You were here all day.
Apparently all day, passed around literally every staff member. It was particularly awkward now being the boss in theory, and being the boss of people who have literally had me in their hands,
right?
Looking after me since
Making
the age of 0.
Oh my
and now
goodness.
I'm their boss.
So fast forward, I think, to, again, you've taken it over, you've got young children, you're here, times are moving on, and you're thinking, okay, I mean, because this is a big castle, this is a big fortress. What were some of the difficulties working out a way to make this commercially viable? Because the zoo, it sounds like, was sort of done.
Well,
what were you thinking creatively?
The zoo was costing a lot.
Yeah.
And everything was costing a huge amount. A lot of land and everything anything that brought an income had been sold off, really.
Right, yes.
Which was a bit of an issue, really. And so it was really trying to stop the outgoings going out and to try and increase the number of visitors and how we'd get more money in.
But the zoo didn't vanish. We evolved the zoo to being fairly mishmash, to specialising, and we developed an owl centre. So it had always primarily been a bird garden with some mammals besides. So we rehomed to various other zoos the mammalian collection.
Yes.
And we set up the world's first dedicated owl centre, and we just had owls, and that was very popular. Became even more so when Harry Potter hit the screens.
Of course.
Because owls were often seen as birds of ill omen and creatures of the night. And we further developed that in 2015 to adding more birds of prey to being the Hawk and Owl Centre. And that has been, as you'll see later, the core of a lot of, and very much conservation based and not just having animals here to entertain people. We've always been conservation based, but we had a definite change of emphasis in the early 90s or late 80s to go conservation based, and we're continuing with that now. And we had to sort the castle out, and Ian did an absolutely brilliant job of we needed to re-roof the castle,
right.
and we managed to just roll up our sleeves, and with Iona leading from the front with her parents, being prepared to do anything, and then we managed to raise some funds and some grants, and had to sell some of the family silver
to re-roof
to
it.
nail our colour to the mast, say we are here and we are going to make a go of this. And
Yeah.
people came on board and helped us out.
And the roof is it's what we all talk about. You know, if you don't have a good roof in place, you don't have a castle. Yes.
We got a structural report done, I suppose, in the 90s.
In the mid-90s.
Mid-90s, which said if you do nothing, it'll be unlivable in
2 years.
2 years.
And a ruin in 10.
Right.
That was really we knew we just couldn't go on. We knew we had to, it was death or glory. We had to stop fiddling around and nail our colours to mast, say we are going to make a go of this, we're going to raise money, we're going to do this and do it properly, rather than make, do and mend. And so in the late 90s, we had what we called the Millennium Project, and we managed to re-roof the castle, add in, more modern facilities and a basic heating system.
And what's the material on the roof? I haven't yet seen
it. It's lead and slate.
Okay,
it has to be, a grade 1 listed building, as
lead.
and it has to be done in traditional materials.
Great expense there.
And we wanted to make we were going sensitive, sustainable and beneficial. So whatever we did had to be beneficial to modern day society. People needed to want to buy into it. It had to be sensitive to the surroundings, the landscape and the buildings and the history, and it had to be sustainable. Ideally, we want to be able to look after ourselves,
of course,
and ploughing any income back into the place to help it grow stronger and be here for future generations of visitors to enjoy, not necessarily the family, because it's a fabulous, beautiful place, and we love sharing it with people. But we've got to make money somehow. So it's getting that balance right between opening our gates and providing something that people want to buy, if you like, and being part of the community, because these places have always been core to the community, and this was originally to protect the community from rampaging Scots. And it was emphasised to us the main thing you have to do is employ people. That's the main benefit, and we're very pleased that we've grown the number of people that work with us to probably the most has ever been here.
Yeah, amazing.
But you do, well, you'll know, you get a sort of thing where it owns you, you don't own it.
Exactly right. So you're living where you work.
Yeah.
So you made that decision, right, we have got to make sure that this is preserved. We're going to do it.
We're going nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Quite
going to do it.
determined, really.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm going to shift a little bit to Ewan now. So Ewan kind of comes of age and goes off to Edinburgh, Cambridge, America.
I mean, I do think all along I've thought it was really important that all the children went away and
Made their own lives.
Yes.
Right.
And learnt about other things, because there's no point, being here the whole time and just having our views and everything.
Right.
Because then you can't move on.
Right.
Even if it's hard work moving on.
But did you feel that growing up, did you feel that this was something that you wanted to take over, or has it just been a recent revelation?
It wasn't necessarily going to be Ewan.
Right, so that was going to be a question. I wasn't sure I could ask that, but I am asking that now if you've prefaced that, because of course you're the third daughter.
Yeah.
So you don't have primogeniture.
No.
Right, so how did that work?
So
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily going to be Ewan, but it was a discussion between all three of them.
Right.
And
Okay.
so Ewan, Fraser and Isla discussed it and said, well, you can do it.
Right.
Don't make a hash,
make a mess of it.
because we're right here and we're watching.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think externally people assume, because I'm the oldest,
Yeah.
that I'm going to take over. And so you get this weird mix as someone like in the family, we would never be like, oh, well, it's obviously going to be you. But then on the outside, you get this weird kind of people treat you as if it's going to be you.
Yeah, due to primogeniture, I think people make that
People
assumption.
just assume, and I'm the best looking and like the most sophisticated and, just naturally kind of...
Your siblings are going to love watching this back.
Well, they know it. It's a fact. I mean, it's not even disputed these days. Like getting that separation of you, finding out who you are versus like having the castle define you is quite a challenge. And yeah, for me, that liberating moment at age 18, going away from here and
Escaping.
not telling anyone that I live in a castle was like awesome. I mean, my career very much took me on the route of energy and low carbon energy and science and those sorts of things. But it kind of, I had about 15 years away from the castle where my identity was, like, as in my colleagues, when I told them in San Francisco that I had to go home I didn't have to go home. I was going home, and my next career move, like, they were genuinely shocked because half of them like had worked with me for years, but didn't know that I lived in a castle, which is just like nice. Which is really weird for me now, because I've now had 2 years where I've got to flip because my entire job is talking about the castle. So I now, like, I kind of hate myself sometimes because I now have to be like, hi, yeah, I'm Ewan Frost-Fenton from Muncaster Castle. Whereas the Ewan before would have died.
You get pigeonholed as soon as someone thinks you live in a castle.
Yeah, and then there's all these sort of assumptions that are being sort of created within the mind of the person you're speaking to.
But then it's really weird because it is like your job and your like as in, I'm honoured to live in the castle. Like, Mum and Dad had definitely not tied my hands and said, right, you're coming back to help. It was actually my little sister that phoned me up. It was like, Mum and Dad are struggling. You need to get back there now. Like, they are getting old, Ewan. They are getting really old. It's time.
She's in trouble.
Because
she was like, yeah.
So you come back here. And now you've got Castle attached to your last name. You're sort of Ewan Frost Pennington at Muncaster Castle. That is your title. But you then decided to really, with your education, and presumably the education that you did all about sustainability, environment, you knew that there was something you wanted to apply from that education to here at the castle. Is that correct? And tell me a little bit about that.
And so I think the real reason I came back ultimately, there's a whole host of reasons, family, etc. But one of the things was I'd kind of got to the point in my career where I was like, yeah, I'm like getting higher up in a company. I was a consultant. I've got really good clients. They're really big, well-known companies. But quite often things would take forever to get done, and because you're a small cog in a big thing. Whereas I'd phone up and say, look, Mum, ground source heat pump's the way to go because I've been doing that on one of my projects. It makes a lot of sense, but doing it at the castle, we should do it. And she's just like, sure, why not? And within 6 months, it's done. We've installed it. We've been through the agility of we've kind of got a big fancy company to come and tell us how to do it, and they gave us a figure we could never afford. And then we've been like, how can we do it differently? brought on board our local plumber, brought on board our electrician, kind of been agile with it, really thought about it, and within 6 months it's done. And I think that's the thing about Muncaster, because we've had such a finite resources in the past and we've had to move so quickly to keep it going, and that it's been mum and dad working 7 days a week for the last 30, 40 years. It's just kind of in the instinct that if you make a decision, you do it and you do it quick, and you have to move quickly, because otherwise, as you say, you might lose the roof, or like something big's going to happen, and you have to do everything full bore.
You keep it as local as possible.
And keep it as local as possible. Jobs. Yeah. And so you came in, you did ground source heating, but you've also, I mean, that is what you're looking at. You're looking at how can I make my castle, and I'm going to say this, but net zero really is, and it's a lovely term, and I know it sometimes gets used very loosely, but really that was one of your goals. Is that right?
I mean, one of the things is it's even more than that, net positive, which is so not only are we having no impact on the natural environment,
you're putting back into
we're
the
like
grid.
Contributing in a positive way to the area in terms of environmental nature, etc. Which I know you're on the same thinking. So, so that really excited me that you could get something done. Yes. And it's definitely been like that. When I came back, I was hoping to do 1 to 2 days a week at Muncaster. And then
your dad's laughing, Peter.
Well, it's very similar to Ewan's experience, because I'm a vet, and I was, in those days, I was working 1 in 2. So most of the time I was on duty, and every second night of every second weekend. I couldn't understand when I married Iona just how all-encompassing it was. And you're on a 1 in 1 here. And it's extraordinary. And as you've probably noticed, Ewan and I do most of the talking, but it's a very matriarchal society. Iona does most of the work. She just gets on with it. And that was like the same with her mother and her father. Her father would ponce around and do lots of talking. Her mother was the core of the place. And she was one of 4 daughters. It was her castle, and she did most of the work. And the blokes just talk about it. So Iona just gets on and does stuff. And we're a very good partnership, even though we bicker all the time. Because
brilliant. That's what makes the partnership even stronger.
She'll go and do the work, and I'll talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this. You're running it kind of together, right? How's that relationship? Because Ewan is this new generation that's coming in, the next gen, as we like to call it through historic houses, the next gen coming in full of ideas, and also, again, thinking about the future, right? What can I do to preserve this for future generations? How can I get the visitor numbers up? How can I do events? And then, of course, you've been here running it for 30, 40 years, and you're thinking, oh gosh, what is it going to cost?
This young whippersnapper.
Is he going to be able to do it? How is it going to work? Is it financially going to make sense? So have you had a little bit of that sort of back and forth when he comes to you with a sausage festival idea? Is that your idea or no?
It was that. Well, mum and dad's actually, and then I just brought it back to life. They killed the sausage, I brought it back to life. Because it was too good to ruin.
And now you've grown it, and you must be quite pleased with that.
It's brilliant. It's that circle of life thing, and I see Ewan being very similar to when I was given the opportunity to come here and work with Iona, trying to explain to my parents-in-law that we were going to have a Fool's Festival, and I think they wanted opera and Shakespeare and things like that. Yeah. We were going, and we just came up with wacky ideas, and Ewan's doing exactly the same, and reinventing things and coming up with totally new ideas, but also embellishing what we've done in the past. So taking something like Halloween and making it bigger and better.
Right.
But it's a very productive process. It's very difficult at times because it's family.
Yes,
but family pull together, and we fight like cat and dogs and argue things stuff. But it's great having, shall we say, a benign dictator who has our hearts are all set on the place. No, we're not very rude.
She's 100% a dictator. But I don't know how benign she is sometimes.
But we don't have to go through committee after committee.
That's exactly right.
As Ewan said, it's brilliant because if we come up with a harebrained idea, we might get, but sometimes we might go, oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think my first meeting where Iona, as I call her in business, but Mum, and I had a meeting where we disagreed strongly on something. It was like,
were plates being thrown.
I was like, this lady's never going to talk to me ever again. Like, she hates my guts. And tell you what, I hate her guts. Like, she's so wrong. But the reality was, it's just so much more raw. Like, as in, of course, in my previous job, we would have disagreements, but it would be far more civil. It'd be like, no, I think that we should do it this way, and the other person would. Whereas, like, the great thing about Mum is, like, she does dust off that meeting. He was so wrong, the idiot. Right. And then she'd be like, do you want scrambled eggs? Like, do you want hot chocolate, Ewan? I find that hard because I go from being like the general manager of Muncaster Castle to being like a 14-year-old. Oh yeah, Mum, please. No, I'm not going to do the dishes. Dad, like I did them last week, and it's just like the hardest, like mind jolt to get yourself into.
It's so true.
Like, it's difficult when you'll cut to that level where you're going, no, you can't do that. It's not going to work. And then you got to stop and go.
It's wonderful to see this dynamic. So I want to end with just one last question, and I don't know how contentious this question will be, but
who's in charge?
But when you look at Muncaster right now and where it's going, where do you want to see it in the next? I'm just going to do 10 years from now. I'm not going to go that crazy long term, but just give me 10 years. Where are you hoping it will? What will it look like? What are you hoping more of, or maybe less of?
Me or
No, it'll have to be you.
Well, I mean, for me, it's all like
retired, and
I'm hoping to not have to put so much blood, sweat and tears into Muncaster on a daily basis that we currently have to do as a family. Like the dependency, like it's a family subsidy essentially that keeps this place going, and that's Mum and Dad having sacrificed weekends, evenings, any form of social life really for the last 30 years, and I don't want to be in that position. So I'm all about empowering the rest of the team to not only have the responsibility but also the opportunities. And at the moment we can be, as a family, can be quite a bottleneck for things because we're the only ones that can get things done. And what I'm passionate about is building that that balance between pure family does literally everything.
Yes.
But then you don't want to go so big that it becomes heartless and it's not a family organisation.
Exactly.
And getting that balance right and having a healthy, basically, community around it that means that it is sustainable and we're not worried that if I'm ill or Mum's ill or whoever's ill that the place is really under threat. We've got a far bigger, stronger community that thrives and loves and celebrates this place accordingly.
That was a very long answer from you, and I would say...
sorry.
In 10 years' time, I'd like to these are living places where honouring the past but looking to the future and for them to be loved, lived in and cherished. And that's what we want to see, hale and hearty and being used and being enjoyed by many people, not just, where Iwan has a very good term of saying, we don't own Muncaster, Muncaster owns us. And Ewan's quite right, we're going to shuffle off before so long, but the tradition goes on, and I think we'll now be part of the tradition. But these places are always built for the new technology and new ideas, new culture, new arts, new ways of looking at life, and often they've become kind of fossilised. And Ewan is obviously full of energy, full of life, and he'll take it into the future with us, supporting him and hopefully slipping off into quiet retirement.
I'm so glad you were even more concise than me, Dad. Dad and I are renowned for being really good and concise and not verbose at all.
No,
right, brilliant.
Well, I'm very verbose.
No, fantastic. Thank you. This has been a real highlight of mine, just sitting, not just as a historic house owner myself, but just the camaraderie and the energy between the three of you. And there's a few other adjectives I could use as well, but I'll hold off.
That'd be a good idea.
The family dynamic and energy is brilliant. And with Ewan keen to build on his parents' legacy at Muncaster, we ventured to the upper floors of the castle, where visitors might one day be able to experience life behind the scenes.
So
I love attics, Ewan. Like, they're my favorite part of any historic house, honestly. And this is now even more favorite because I can see you have archive boxes everywhere. I mean, I know it's not technically your archive room. I've already seen that. But this is a wonderful space up here.
This is, so we're in the female servant quarter wing.
Okay.
But then there is an entire tower, the male servants' quarters, and that's more derelict than this, but that's 4 floors of empty rooms, or not empty. They're full of what I call sorting debt.
Right.
Debt that, like, if our family was to have a full-time job sorting through the stuff, it would probably take 2 or 3 of us a year to decide what we chuck or keep. But I'm wanting to start chipping away at it, especially while the generation above is still like engaged. Like mum and dad, I think would really help accelerate that, and even my aunties. But yeah, so there's lots of work to be done on them. And the thing is, it's not even the attic, because the attic's the floor above, right? Where we're starting to, we're just insulating it and starting to use that for storage too. So we've got
because you have, let's put this, you've got like what 900 years of storage, right?
Yeah. And it's also chaotic because the family used to have lots of estates, and this is the last one. It's also combination of quick sell that, and we'll sell loads of that stuff, and we need to, but actually we're really sentimental about this or that, and we really want to keep that, and then suddenly that comes here. And so it's the collection. It's a bizarre collection. Like, as you can see, Water Estate.
Yes.
It's not Muncaster Estate, but that's for example one thing, and then you've got like Lord Muncaster's combined with the Ramsdens, and you know what families are like, but
yes,
add the kind of mega onto it. You have the same.
And it's just all sort of they sort of pile up, and next thing you know, you're like, wait, is this our branch of Montague or is it the other branch of Montague?
Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly, and I guess it's why it's sorting debt, because a lot of it is junk. A lot of it is worthless or broken and should be thrown out. But then you don't know the sentimental context of it, like last Lord Muncaster's military hat and how it has a big hole in. We just always assumed that was a moth hole, but then we found a diary entry that's about how he fought in the Crimea, and he stuck his head up and the bullet went through the hat. And so that suddenly it would have looked like junk, but actually in the context, that's an amazing part of history, that when you find the diary, you put the two together and you can see completely why someone kept that.
Exactly.
And so you can't just be rash and say, okay, let's send that to auction, because it could be a fundamentally important story of the house.
Yeah, because that story you just told right now, I mean, that's interesting. And people, if they saw that even out on display.
But then it's like the amount of connections, and even though we were slowly growing our curation capability, there's only a small number of them, and the amount of stuff to go through.
And the amount of hours that you have in a day and a month and a year.
And then it's also, I think, the question of what do you do with these rooms?
Yeah, I mean, you have sort of the state rooms, or, the more elegant rooms that the public come in and see. But of course, I am the public. And these, to be honest, these rooms I'd be interested in seeing as well, even if they looked like this. I'm just thinking, is that something you're thinking about doing, like for an extra $5, everybody, you get to go see the female servants wing, and then you get to go to the tower and see the male wing?
Yeah, and I think that appeals. So in the immediate time, with like taking it bite size, Dad did actually used to do behind the scenes tours where he dressed as a Victorian butler and showed them what life was like behind the stairs, but that was just touching the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
So the initial plan for me with this corridor is Halloween is our biggest festival.
Yes.
And we've been wondering what to do for the scary night tour, or Scarecaster as we call it. And so we're going to be making these servants' quarters at the top floor a bit into a kind of a scary maze almost, where you can open doors to go in some, but there'll be actors that jump out, and using that, the income from that, as an excuse to actually do some of the sorting of some of these rooms.
Okay.
So that's like step one, doing exactly what you're kind of alluding to, which is let the public into some of these spaces, but in quite a controlled fashion, or a way that's maybe slightly innovative or different. Then step two is, once we've got the rooms maybe a bit clearer of stuff, then we need to actually address the fact that there's issues here, cracking and like we've been doing kind of firefighting, but it needs to be potentially reinstated with a carpet or painted or
Yes,
the like.
yes.
And then, I mean, I would love to try some different things, because the issue is it's not en suite.
Yeah.
So
there's-
you can't just, it's not just a hotel.
Is there a bathroom on this floor? Or is it?
Yeah, down a couple of corridors. So not immediate. So potentially you would need to do some replumbing.
Right.
Or, because of course when the servants lived here in the 1920s, they would probably go outside. I think even the main family would have bed pans.
Yes,
or,
exactly. The chamber pots.
yeah, they wouldn't necessarily have toilets. So the ideal would be, yeah, okay, you could make it onto en suite, but are we going to modify it too much? Or do we just embrace the fact that they are servants' quarters?
Yes.
And the idea that I kind of like is, do we offer people the opportunity to come and live the life of a servant for a few days? And maybe that's where they pay to come and do that. And then for another group of people, they come and live as the lords and ladies of Muncaster, which just could be quite a fun, I don't know. I like, bizarrely for me, even though I'm brought up in the castle, I would quite like to, and I actually think there's a value in me paying to come and live like a servant for a few days in the castle and see the kind of culture that it develops.
But also, would you have them? Because I'm almost at that point of sign me up. Because I would do that, because you could experience it. But then if I was staying here, I'm just picking your brain here, would I then be able to sort of take on some of the tasks of a servant? So I would be polishing the silver, or, you know, whatever, setting the fire, something like that.
Yeah, and that would be the ideal for me. I think what we'd want to do is employ a couple of actors to be like the head butler or the head housekeeper.
Right.
And then they would then be like, no, Julia, you need to clear this fireplace properly.
Exactly.
Come on, get polishing the silver. This is your schedule for the day.
Yes.
Chop, come on, there's jobs to be done. And make it a bit of fun.
Yes.
But then you get a kind of good idea of what the culture was like and what it actually felt like 150 years ago to live in houses like this.
Yeah.
Because we've literally got the beds that the servants still slept on.
Oh,
so
no way.
This is one of the horsehair single mattresses that would have been typical. And to be honest, we had an entire room of these horsehair mattresses. And then there is actually a room that is an entire room full of the spring beds, like lower cases.
So you have basically a mattress room.
We did. And I don't think the fire team were particularly happy of fire loading to that extent.
Yeah.
And so Dad and I did have fun one day throwing all of the horsehair mattresses out of the window of the top floor. To free up the space and comply
because
better
they are
with fire egg.
they're a real fire hazards. And it's such an exciting project to think about, and all of these ideas, I can see them spinning in your head, thinking, wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, this room still continues to cost, right? Because the roof is slowly aging. There's movement of the castle.
Yes.
Like you can see the split in the fireplace.
Lovely tiles.
Lovely tiles, but it's
you've got
clearly aging at a rate, and it needs money spent on it.
Yeah.
But the only way you can do that is if you get it used and it has a purpose in society and the community, and if you've got people regularly in here, they notice things like that.
Of course.
And then we can address them. Whereas quite often it can be that some of these rooms, no one will go in for months.
Right.
And then suddenly you come in and then, I don't know, there's been a fly invasion, or
we have those too.
Or there's a crack,
or there's bats,
or it's got wet and it's suddenly damp because the roof started leaking.
Yeah, because you can't.
Whereas if you're using it every day, it feels alive. It's got love going into it. There's new stories being made. There's new narratives, and it's an exciting, dynamic thing. Yeah. I mean, this fireplace, I've never actually noticed just how good it is. But and every room like this has a fireplace. Yeah. Which is bonkers. So the servants were running around stoking fires.
How many servants do you think you had sort of at its peak, roughly?
I mean, I would be guessing, but I think it was 40-ish or something like that. So it was a substantial effort, and lots of bedrooms. And the infrastructure of that still exists. So we've still got, Dad and I, when we were installing the insulation in the ceiling upstairs in the actual attic, we were still finding the ropes that connect all the bells, and those bells are still in place for ringing to tell the servants which room to go to or what needs done or whichever, and you can really see those. And it's kind of the novel thing that all that infrastructure, it has literally been frozen in time from 100 years ago, just with some stuff put in these rooms.
Right.
And then the roof resealed so that it's not got leaks. And so that's the amazing thing, that infrastructure is all still there. So how can we use it? How can we like celebrate that in the right way and celebrate that heritage, but make it applicable and accessible to my generation,
absolutely,
or future generations,
or me. I mean, sign me up. Seriously, I can be like the test dummy. I can do a test run. I'll stay in this room. I really like those tiles there, and then just put me to work.
Okay, we're definitely gonna take you up on that. Like, as in, our first return of a servant will be the Viscountess.
Exactly.
Like, as in.
I'll do lots of
We're
social media.
reinstating it, but Viscountess has turned to the Cinderella, and it'll be perfect. Yeah, perfect. I'll join you.
Okay, great.
As the family member of the house, and I'll be the servant as well, and then we can.
Should we shake on that? That is a deal.
Okay, deal.
We're doing it.
I can't
and we'll
wait.
film it too.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good.
Brilliant.
Since 1968, when the castle first opened to the public, there have been bird gardens, but over the years, they have expanded, and today, the Hawk and Owl Center is focused on conservation and education.
Sitting here, you've got a Grade 1 listed building, a medieval castle, England's highest mountain beyond, in this incredible flying arena. Here we go.
How many birds in total do you have?
We've got about 30 birds. We have examples of all the different types of bird of prey, and all our birds get out and fly every day. So if they don't want to come back, they don't have to.
Right.
But they love us, so they...
It's just brilliant.
We opened permanently on 1968, so it had been open a bit before that, but from 1968 we opened every day in the season. They had a mini zoo, but it was mainly a bird garden. And then in 2015 we expanded into more birds of prey and got the eagles and the vultures and things.
Right, okay.
And the great thing also is all our bird staff are so skilled, you know, and the young people living and working here and so passionate about what they do.
Look at this. How adorable.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, this is where you got to do your decking. By flying them, they keep them fit, they keep them to the right weight, they keep them fit and healthy. So to me it's brilliant. And we've got a wonderful opportunity to educate people. You'll hear when we talk about vultures, because everyone loves eagles and owls, but no one likes vultures. So you'll hear the most important work we do is the vultures, because they're most endangered.
You're currently looking at a critically endangered species. In fact, of the 23 species of vulture worldwide, 9 are critically endangered, including, of course, the hooded vulture here, and they've seen massive declines in their population. Do not worry, there is work being done to help save our vultures out in the wild, and we do work here at Muncaster as well. Because in the next couple of years, we're hoping our fantastic team of vultures here will be the very start of our breeding programme. But that was our fantastic team of vultures. They did a wonderful job for us today.
It's amazing.
Muncaster is known for its larger-than-life events. Over the years, Peter has taken center stage in the immersive events at the castle. A recent addition to the visitor experience is the medieval-inspired Weapons Hall. And it's where I met a familiar-looking King of Cumberland.
Hail, huzzah!
King of Cumberland. Is that right?
That is correct, my lady. Welcome. Viscountess, I believe.
That's
we
right.
are honoured to have your presence.
I was going to say,
Shouldn't
I curtsy to you though? Because technically
you
speaking,
should. Absolutely.
You're the king,
you're
and I'm
with
just
the
a
king.
low Viscountess.
Well, you're still quite high. Have you ever ventured so far north in your travels?
Never, ever in my life. But what an honour to be here.
Well, thank you
Do you
for...
allow Americans though?
I beg your pardon?
Are Americans allowed?
Where is America? Is it over the water somewhere?
Somewhere.
Have you
Somewhere back there.
travelled far from some land I've never heard of?
I've come on an airplane.
You're losing me. Anyway, we have a quest for you now you're back in the medieval age, because this is to enhance your skills and talents.
Okay.
And we are training up knights, we need horsemen, we need axe throwers, we need crossbowmen and archers, because I have to defend Cumberland from all who would take it from us. Are you up to your task?
I am, sir.
Well, go
King.
forth and get training, my lady. Off you go.
Can I do that?
Huzzah!
Then things seemed to get even more bizarre. Okay.
Find one here for it.
Okay. Mr. Plum. Matches my trousers nearly. There we go. Okay. Hold on with my left hand.
Left hand. Hold the lance in your right hand.
Like this.
Yeah, and then if you couch it, so if you squeeze it in between, yeah.
Okay. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Allez!
Oh my God, it's fast. Woo! How was that?
You got 2 out of 3.
Okay.
The last one, rather than do this stabbing lunge,
Yeah.
it's best once you've cleared the spinning knight, just
Yeah.
hold your lance level
Yeah.
to aim for it rather than going for a thrust.
Here we go. All right. Here we go. Hold on, everybody.
There you go. One. Allez!
Okay, that is 3 out of 3, I believe. I'm gonna pro at this. I should just go back in time and be a jouster. I interrupt this program for a very special announcement. We have lost quite a bit of power here at Muncaster Castle, which means that the dinner that we had planned to film for you tonight in the lovely dining room is still going to happen, but we're gonna go back in time and have the dinner like they did during the medieval times, all by candlelight. So let's go feast.
Wow!
Wow.
Ooh!
It's sensational. Oh my gosh, look at that fire. Yeah, it's, stunning.
Please take a seat, everyone. And you unfortunately have got the coldest seat in the room.
That's all right. It's fine that I've got 6 layers on, so it's all good.
That's what I was going to tell you about.
I think we're all served, so will I ask the Viscountess to say grace?
Dad's teasing.
Phew!
Dad loves to do
I
this
haven't-
to test people. My goodness. He doesn't. We don't actually say grace.
Okay. Oh my goodness. My face went red, but luckily there's no lights on in here apart from the candlelight. But I would like to give a toast, if that's okay. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you to Iona, Peter, and Ewan for taking time out of your day, because I know that your days are packed, weekends are tight, holidays probably don't exist. I learned all of that today, and I also understand that myself, running a historic house, it's not like those Downton Abbey days, thank goodness. It's a lot of work, and just spending time with the 3 of you today was just incredibly inspirational, hearing about how you have transformed Muncaster Castle to what we see today, but the exciting plans and trajectory ahead that Ewan has put forward that sometimes might ruffle some feathers, but I think we're all on board. And it's just been a wonderful opportunity for me to see as much as I could see what's going on, and this fantastic house that really is a home, but also not just a home for a family, but for community and the public, and people to come in and share with just your incredible generosity of your time, but also your stories and the future that you're creating. So thank you. Thank you. Cheers.
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 Yeah. My grace would have been a lot shorter. well, can I respond with another quick toast? And this applies to any home. May the roof of your house or your castle never fall in, and may the people inside never fall out.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Stealing that.
We don't need light, do we? It's great.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Quite nice. Are you thinking then possibly you should do this more often? Just sort of pretend that the power's gone out and we have to do it by candlelight.
This isn't pretending, it is saving money.
Murray, don't give away all our secrets.
What an exhilarating and wonderful visit to Muncaster Castle. To dine by candlelight was the perfect ending to my stay, and the weather added to the mystery and atmosphere. Although Peter believes strange happenings in the castle are the work of the spirit of Tom Fool.
He's rarely seen, but we are the home of tomfoolery.
Yeah.
And Thomas Skelton, who was known as Tom the Fool,
Yeah.
lived here many centuries ago. Big character. We still can't pin him down. We got references to him in account books of his coat being bought. The role of the fool was to take the mickey out of those who thought there was something special in authority.
Right.
And his spirit, his mischievous spirit, still pervades the place. And the role of the fool is like the role of the stand-up comic these days, who stands up and slags off politicians and reminds us that we're all only human. If you get puffed up and think you're something special important, he'll bring you down to size.
Right.
And today, as you've experienced, we were having fun with the filming, and
Yeah.
I think, rightly or wrongly, I'm no different from anyone else. I live in a weird place and a very special place. And there I am. As soon as I dressed up as the King of Cumberland, came out to see you, bang, the power went off.
The power went off.
And
it's still off.
And it's still off. And since then, I've been running around trying to look after visitors.
But he was a bit
clients.
of a bad character, though, wasn't he?
Oh, Tom.
You've been looking after visitors, you've been looking after a film crew, we've been trying to film, and Thomas has kept that
Tom's
power off.
having his wicked way with
He
us.
is.
And he's done that to us before. If you don't believe in ghosts, it's just coincidence and you're reading it. But so many times
I believe now.
Yeah. And so don't mess with Tom. And if Tom thinks you're doing wrong to the place, there'll be various
So do you
stories
think that that's what it is? Do you think that the film crew came in and he thought we're messing with the place?
No, I don't think he thought you were messing
And
with the place.
we're gonna
He was getting at
shut it
me
all
because
down?
I was sort of trying, I'm important, I should be the King of Cumberland. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, if you just look at
Well, I
these,
obviously now do.
well, if you look at these buildings, the spirit of the people who built, it's not about us, the posh people who live here. It's about the people who created these things, and they've poured their soul into the furniture, the carving, the artworks, and they're still with us in so many ways.